The Human Academy on Varan 9 had always been a quiet place. Deep in the outer rim of the galaxy, surrounded by cold stars and silent defense satellites, it was meant to be a safe zone, a training center for young minds, not warriors. The corridors always echoed with laughter, with the soft hum of machines teaching lessons about alien cultures, history, and diplomacy. But that piece ended in a single heartbeat. It began with a low vibration under the floors. The lights flickered. Then came the alarms, sharp, red, and merciless. Students froze. Instructors shouted for order, but the sound of explosions drowned everything. The enemy had come, not for negotiation, but for extermination. Among the running children was a boy named Eli, only 12 years old. He wasn't a soldier, but he had something the others didn't, a companion no alien could understand. At his side, padding low and silent, was Rex, a honey badger bred from Earth stock, but trained under the Academy's experimental Terra defense program. Rex wasn't like the pets most alien races kept. He was intelligent, strong, and utterly fearless. When the walls trembled again, Eli turned to see armored alien soldiers burst through the main gate, tall, dark-scaled creatures with glowing visors and plasma rifles that spat blue fire. The instructors tried to shield the children, but they fell one by one. The invaders were fast, efficient, ruthless. Eli dragged a smaller girl, Lena, behind an overturned console. She was crying, her voice trembling as she called for her father, an instructor now lost somewhere in the chaos. The Academy's communication lines were dead, and the defense drones had been wiped out in the first strike. There was no rescue coming. Eli whispered to Rex, and the creature's black eyes gleamed in the emergency lights. The honey badger growled, a deep, rolling sound that made the metal floor seem to vibrate. Outside their hiding spot, the alien commander gave orders. "Find the human young. Eliminate them." His voice was distorted through a translator, but the hatred was clear. To them, humans were an anomaly, a species from a death world, unpredictable and dangerous. And this academy had dared to train more of them. Rex crouched low, nostrils flaring, muscles tense. Eli could feel the animal's heartbeat, steady and strong. He didn't want to fight. He just wanted to protect Lena. But the aliens were closing in, their heavy boots echoing closer, closer. One of them spotted movement and fired. The plasma bolt hit the wall beside Eli, scorching metal and filling the air with smoke. The sound made Lena scream. That scream changed everything. Rex exploded out of hiding like a storm. The aliens turned, weapons ready, but they were too slow. The honey badger hit the first one's leg with enough force to break the armor plating. A second later, its jaws clamped down on the alien's throat. The soldier fell, choking on his own blood. Another fired wildly, but Rex was already on him, claws tearing through synthetic fabric, teeth flashing. Eli grabbed Lena's hand and ran. Behind them, chaos erupted. The hallway that had once been a place of learning was now a battlefield lit by fire and plasma. Rex moved through it like a shadow of vengeance, small, fast, unstoppable. The alien commander stared in disbelief. "What is that thing?" he demanded, watching as his troops fell one after another. He had studied humans before, their fragile frames, their soft skin, but he had never seen a creature fight like this. Eli ducked behind a collapsed pillar, panting. "Rex!" he shouted. The badger turned, blood dripping from its muzzle, and bounded back to the boy's side. The commander aimed his plasma rifle at them, fury blazing in his reptilian eyes. Before he could fire, the floor beneath them shook again, not from weapons, but from the Academy's emergency bulkhead systems slamming shut. The AI core had detected critical damage and was sealing sections to slow the invasion. Heavy doors crashed down between the surviving humans and their attackers, trapping both sides in isolated zones. Eli looked at the sealed door. They were safe for now, but the air was filled with smoke and the emergency lights flickered weakly. He could still hear distant screams from other wings of the Academy. Lena clutched his arm. "Eli, they'll come again, won't they?" He nodded slowly. "Yes," Rex growled low, staring at the door as if daring it to open. Outside, the alien commander pressed a clawed hand against the metal wall, listening to the faint growl echoing from the other side. "That sound," he muttered. It wasn't human. His second-in-command tilted his head. It was small, some kind of beast. "But it fought like a war machine." The commander's voice grew dark. "Then kill the beast first." Inside the sealed hall, Eli sat with his arm around Lena as Rex paced in front of them, tail twitching. The air smelled of metal, oil, and ozone. The academy, once a symbol of peace, was now a cage of fire and fear, but Eli wasn't afraid anymore. The fear had burned away, replaced by something colder. He looked at his companion, the one creature who had always stood between him and the dark, and whispered, "They think they scared us." Rex turned his head, eyes glinting. "They're wrong." The emergency lights dimmed, leaving the three figures, boy, girl, and beast, in a pool of red glow. Outside, the invaders regrouped. Inside, the honey badger waited, its claws tapping softly on the steel floor. The Academy of Peace had fallen silent, but something inside it was about to roar back. The smoke had thinned, but the silence inside the academy was worse than the noise of battle. Every shadow seemed alive. Every flicker of light felt like a threat. The corridors that once echoed with laughter now smelled of burning metal and blood. Eli moved slowly through the ruins, holding Lena's hand. Rex padded beside them, his claws clicking softly against the steel floor. His fur was singed, his breathing heavy, but his eyes, those black, fearless eyes, never left the path ahead. They had one goal: reach the command room. That was where the Academy's defense corps was located. If Eli could get there, maybe he could trigger the distress beacon and call for help from the nearest human fleet. But the path was dangerous. The alien invaders, called the Zarath, were spreading through the Academy like a plague. They were methodical, scanning every room, tearing open doors, and marking corpses with strange glowing symbols. Their armor shimmered in hues of violet and steel, and their voices carried a cold precision that felt less like rage and more like calculation. Eli hid behind a shattered wall and peered out. Two Zarath soldiers were nearby, searching through debris. Their weapons hummed softly, deadly and calm. Rex's muscles tensed, his teeth bared in silent fury. "No," Eli whispered. "Not yet." He placed a hand on Rex's shoulder, feeling the raw strength coiled beneath that fur. The creature obeyed, barely, but its eyes followed the soldiers, tracking their every step. Lena was trembling. "Why are they doing this?" she whispered. Eli shook his head. "They hate humans. They think we don't belong here. They want to end every academy we built. But we didn't do anything wrong," she said softly. He wanted to tell her that innocence never mattered in war, but she was too young to hear that truth. The sound of footsteps echoed again, heavier this time. The alien commander was near. His armor gleamed with gold markings, and his eyes burned behind a curved visor. He carried a long plasma blade still glowing from the heat of battle. "Find the child," the commander growled to his troops. "The one with the beast. Bring me their heads," Rex growled back, low and dangerous. Eli motioned for silence, then crawled toward a nearby vent hatch. "This way," he whispered. The vent tunnel was narrow and dark, but it was their only way to move unseen. The small trio slipped inside. Metal groaned beneath their weight as they crawled forward. The sound of alien voices echoed behind them, followed by the hiss of plasma fire. When they reached an opening overlooking the Academy's atrium, Eli froze. The scene below made his heart drop. Hundreds of students and teachers were being herded together by Zarath soldiers. Their weapons glowed blue against the terrified faces. The invaders were rounding up survivors, forcing them to kneel on the floor. The commander stood at the center, raising his blade. "This place defied the will of the council," he declared. "You train monsters on a death world. You turned beasts into weapons. You will be erased." Lena covered her mouth, fighting a sob. "Eli, he's going to kill them!" Rex let out a rumbling growl that vibrated through the vents. Eli felt the sound in his bones. He looked at his companion, then back at the commander below. There were too many aliens. They couldn't fight them all, not yet. But something inside Eli refused to watch in silence. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, the emergency flare they used in training drills. Normally, it was for signaling during field exercises. But now it would be bait. He pressed the ignition. A bright red light filled the vent tunnel. The aliens turned instantly. "Up there!" one shouted. Eli threw the flare into the atrium. It landed near a line of fuel canisters the aliens had dropped. The heat spread fast. Fire burst upward in a blinding wave. The Zareth stumbled, shielding their faces. Rex jumped first. The honey badger dropped from the vent like a meteor, landing on the back of a soldier. Armor cracked. The aliens screamed. Rex didn't stop. He tore through the line of troops, claws slashing, teeth crushing. Plasma bolts fired wildly, lighting the smoke with flashes of blue. Eli followed, landing hard beside Lena. He grabbed a fallen rifle and aimed, firing bursts of plasma with trembling hands. Each shot echoed through the atrium. The commander turned, fury flashing across his scaled face. "Kill them!" But Rex was already moving like a storm. He ripped through a soldier's leg and slammed another into the wall. His growl filled the vast chamber, a sound so deep it made the walls vibrate. It was more than rage. It was a challenge. The Zareth fell back, shouting in panic. "It's unstoppable!" one cried. The commander stepped forward, blade humming. "Beast or not, I will silence it," he charged. The two collided, plasma against claw. Sparks exploded as the commander struck Rex's shoulder. The smell of burnt fur filled the air, but Rex didn't flinch. He lunged forward, biting into the alien's armor, tearing metal apart with raw fury. Eli fired again, covering his companion. The room shook as the flames reached the ceiling. "Eli, we have to go!" Lena screamed. He looked around. The exit was blocked, smoke choking the air. Then he saw a maintenance shaft near the far wall. "Rex, here!" The honey badger turned, blood dripping from his jaws, and followed. The three of them vanished into the smoke as the ceiling began to collapse. When the flames died down, only silence remained. The atrium was destroyed. The commander lay motionless among his fallen troops, his armor torn open, his eyes frozen in disbelief. Outside, in the upper maintenance tunnels, Eli and Lena stopped to catch their breath. "Do you think they're gone?" Lena whispered. Eli shook his head. "No, this was only the beginning." Rex sniffed the air and growled again. His fur was scorched, his body bleeding, but he was still ready. The small creature stood tall in the dim light, unbroken, unafraid. Somewhere deep in the academy, new alarms began to sound. Reinforcements were coming, and this time the honey badger would be waiting. The upper tunnels of the academy were dark and silent, broken only by the soft hum of emergency power. Eli, Lena, and Rex moved through the narrow metal passageways like ghosts. Smoke from the fires below crept upward, staining the air with the sharp smell of melted steel. Every few meters, Eli stopped to listen. Somewhere beneath them, the Zareth soldiers were reorganizing. The echoes of their boots, their mechanical scanners, and their alien speech carried through the vents. The invasion wasn't over, it had only just begun. Rex led the way now. His fur was matted with soot, his armor scratched, but his stride was steady. He moved with the careful precision of a predator who knew the hunt was far from done. Lena followed close, clutching a small light baton she'd found. Her face was pale, streaked with grime and fear, but her eyes burned with something new, determination. "Eli," she whispered, "where are we going now?" "The command core," he said quietly. "If we reach it, maybe we can turn the defense turrets back online." Lena nodded, though she knew the odds were terrible. Half the academy was destroyed. Communications were dead. The walls groaned with distant explosions. But somehow she trusted Eli, and more than that, she trusted Rex. As they reached a junction, they saw flickering holograms on the wall, blue projections of maps and tactical feeds. Most showed static, but one feed still worked, displaying a top-down view of the Academy's central hall. Eli stared at the image. "They're regrouping," he muttered. Hundreds of Zareth soldiers were forming tight squads. At the center stood a new figure, taller than the rest, wrapped in heavy armor glowing with gold veins of energy. "That's not the same commander," Lena whispered. Eli nodded. No, that's someone worse. The alien leader was giving orders through hand signals. Drones hovered above him, scanning the wreckage, searching for survivors. He was calm, efficient, like he had done this 100 times before. Suddenly, one of the drone's scanners passed over the vent shaft where Eli and Lena were hiding. The feed flickered red. "They found us," Eli breathed. A second later, the vent wall exploded. The blast threw them backward. Metal shards scattered and smoke filled the tunnel. The roar of alien boots thundered closer. "Run!" Eli shouted. They sprinted down the corridor as energy bolts ripped through the walls behind them. Sparks flew. Rex turned suddenly, planting himself between the children and the attackers. Plasma fire hit the walls beside him, but he didn't move. His snarl echoed through the tunnel, a sound so primal it made even the soldiers hesitate. Then he charged. The first alien fell before he could aim. The second screamed as Rex leapt onto his chest, tearing through his armor. The confined tunnel became chaos. Smoke, screams, claws, and metal. Eli pulled Lena toward a side hatch while Rex ripped through the last soldier. They slammed the hatch shut and locked it from the inside. The new room was quiet, a control chamber, small but intact. Screens blinked with data. The Academy's AI, still flickering through damaged circuits, hummed faintly. "Can you use it?" Lena asked, eyes wide. Eli wiped his hands on his uniform and approached the console. "I'll try." He tapped at the glowing keys. The AI responded sluggishly, its voice faint and distorted. User recognized, Cadet Eli Harrow. Limited command access. Warning, security breach in all sectors. Eli swallowed hard. Activate internal defense grid. Defense grid offline. Manual override required in core chamber. Of course it is, Eli muttered. Rex prowled around the room, sniffing the air. His ears twitched. He could sense something the others couldn't. A faint vibration, almost like movement inside the walls. Then the floor beneath them trembled. The lights dimmed. The AI's voice broke into static. Alert! Power surge detected. Unknown biosignature approaching. Eli looked up. Biosignature? The wall behind them burst open. Out of the darkness stepped something that wasn't quite Zareth. It was larger, broader, with extra armor fused to its flesh, part machine, part creature. Its eyes glowed red, its arms ending in serrated claws. The experiments. The Academy had once whispered about them. Zareth shock troopers enhanced with stolen human biotech. It roared and the sound rattled the room. Rex didn't wait for orders. He lunged forward, slamming into the monster with full force. The two collided like thunder, metal scraping, claws tearing. The shockwave knocked Eli and Lena backward. "Rex!" Eli shouted, trying to aim the plasma rifle he'd stolen earlier. He fired, the beam striking the creature's chest, but it barely slowed. Rex bit into its arm, twisting, tearing through muscle and steel. The creature slammed him against the wall, but the honey badger held on, growling deep from its chest. Sparks flew as Rex clawed at the creature's throat. Eli saw a power conduit on the ceiling, a thick cable sparking with energy. "Lena!" he shouted. "The switch! Pull it!" Lena ran, leaping over debris, and yanked the lever. The conduit exploded in a flash of white light. Electricity surged through the room. The creature screamed, a horrible, distorted sound, as the current tore through its cybernetic frame. It fell to its knees, twitching. Rex stumbled back, smoke rising from his fur, but he stood. The monster collapsed in a heap of metal and burnt flesh. Silence returned. Lena fell to her knees, panting. "Is it over?" Eli looked down at Rex, whose sides rose and fell slowly. He was hurt, but still alive. "For now," Eli said softly. He turned to the console again. The AI flickered back to life, damaged but functional. Override key detected. Access to main defense systems granted. Eli's eyes widened. "We can control the turrets. We can lock the doors." He entered the command manually. Across the Academy, mechanical systems roared awake. Defense cannons rose from walls. Steel barriers sealed the main halls. For the first time since the attack began, the humans weren't running. They were fighting back. Outside, the new Zareth commander stared at his scanners in disbelief as his troops began to fall to automated fire. "Impossible!" he hissed. How could the defense systems reactivate? Inside the control chamber, Eli smiled faintly. Let's see how they like being hunted. Rex growled in agreement, baring his blood-stained teeth. The siege wasn't over, but now it had a defender the galaxy would never forget. The Academy groaned under its own wounds. Fire burned in distant halls, doors hissed open and shut from power surges, and every corridor echoed with a strange mix of silence and violence. The human stronghold had turned into a maze of smoke and flickering light. Eli stood beside the control console, staring at the fading hologram map. His hands shook from exhaustion, his uniform torn and stained. Lena sat nearby, patching Rex's burned shoulder with a strip of medic foam. The Badger didn't flinch. He just stared at the sealed door ahead, listening for footsteps. "They're regrouping again," Eli murmured. "Their commander's not giving up." Lena looked up, her small voice steady. "We stopped them once. We'll do it again." Rex growled softly, almost like he agreed. The Academy's AI flickered to life, its voice distorted but calm. "Warning. Enemy presence detected in Sector 9. Biohazard readings increasing. Recommend evacuation," Eli frowned. "Biohazard? What does that mean?" Before the AI could answer, the screen crackled and displayed a new image, deep within the Academy's lower levels. Massive containment chambers sealed and glowing red. Inside them, something moved. Something large. Lena's eyes widened. "What are those?" Eli stared. They were experiments. From the old Terra Defense Program. He remembered whispers from instructors, projects combining human DNA with creatures from Earth's deadliest ecosystems. The goal had been to create new defenders for human colonies, but most had been abandoned. Too unstable? Too dangerous? The AI's voice glitched again. Containment breach detected. Protocol Sigma 9 initiated. A low rumble shook the floor. From the vent shafts above, a cold wind blew through, carrying a smell like ozone and decay. Then, faint but growing, came the sound of claws scraping metal. Rex lifted his head. His muscles tensed. His fur bristled. Eli raised his rifle. "Something's coming!" The door burst open before he could finish. A Zarath soldier flew through the air, hitting the wall with a sickening crack. Behind him crawled something massive, a twisted fusion of flesh, armor, and machine. It had 4 glowing eyes and a mouthful of needle-like teeth. The beast moved like a wolf, but its body was plated with jagged metal. Lena gasped. "That's one of them!" The monster turned its gaze toward them. Its claws dug into the steel floor. It was hunting. Rex stepped forward, growling, a deep, rumbling sound that filled the room. The alien beast paused, recognizing another predator. Eli pulled Lena behind him. "Rex! Stay close!" The creature lunged. The impact shattered the floor tiles. Rex met it head-on, their bodies colliding with a sound like thunder. The two beasts rolled, clawing, biting, tearing at each other. Sparks flew as armor scraped armor. Eli fired into the chaos, but the shots barely slowed them. The alien beast slammed Rex against the wall. The honey badger hit hard, leaving a dent in the metal. For a heartbeat, he didn't move. "Rex!" Lena screamed. The alien turned its glowing eyes toward her, ready to strike again. But then, something changed. Rex's body twitched, his breathing heavy and ragged. His eyes flickered, not just black now, but glowing amber. The wounds on his back stopped bleeding, the skin beneath shifting, hardening. His armor plates realigned with a metallic snap. Eli took a step back. What's happening to him?" The AI's voice returned, static-filled and urgent. "Alert! Terra Defense Unit Prototype, Model RX-09, activation sequence detected." "Activation?" Eli echoed. "You mean he wasn't just trained?" "Negative. Subject Rex-09 was engineered. Genetic hybridization of Terran fauna and adaptive nanotech." Lena stared at the honey badger in awe. "He's evolving!" Rex rose slowly. The glow in his eyes brightened, his breath misting in the cold air. The alien beast roared and lunged again, but this time Rex met it mid-air. He moved faster, too fast. His claws tore through the creature's armor like paper. 1 strike, 2, 3, and the alien monster hit the ground, its body shredded. Rex stood over it, his chest heaving, smoke rising from his claws. His growl now carried an unnatural echo, almost mechanical. Eli whispered, They created him to fight things like this. The AI spoke again, quieter now. Project RX was designed as a protector-class organism. Loyalty bonded to human subjects through neural empathy. Eli's throat tightened. He was made to protect us. Before he could say more, the floor trembled again. Explosions shook the walls. The AI's tone shifted to alarm. Multiple hostiles breaching outer hull. The Zareth are deploying atmospheric bombers. Evacuation window closing. Lena grabbed Eli's sleeve. We can't leave him! Eli looked at Rex, who was staring back, eyes bright and steady. The creature seemed to understand. He nudged Eli gently, then growled toward the exit corridor. He wants us to go, Lena said softly. Eli shook his head. No, he's not staying behind, but the choice was taken from them. The door exploded inward as Zareth soldiers stormed in, dozens of them led by their new commander in golden armor. "End this!" the commander shouted. The soldiers opened fire. Plasma bolts filled the room in a storm of blue light. Eli dove behind cover, pulling Lena down with him. The walls burned. Rex roared. He leapt into the line of fire, his body glowing with golden light from the nanotech surging through him. Bolts hit him, but instead of piercing, they scattered, the energy absorbed and redirected. Rex slammed into the nearest squad, claws flashing like blades. He moved with impossible precision, every motion filled with purpose. The commander raised his plasma blade and charged. "You think a beast can defy us?" Rex turned, and for a moment, the glow of his eyes reflected off the commander's armor. Then he lunged. The golden blade struck his shoulder, but Rex bit down on the weapon, crushing it between his jaws. The commander tried to pull away, but the honey badger twisted, ripping the weapon from his grasp, and then slammed into him, sending both crashing through the wall into the hallway beyond. Eli stood, heart pounding. "We have to follow him!" He grabbed Lena's hand and ran. The hallway beyond was lit by fire and sparks. At the far end, Rex stood over the fallen commander, breathing hard, blood and smoke swirling around him. The commander struggled to rise, armor shattered. "You are no animal." Rex growled once, low, final, and struck. When it was over, the golden armor lay still. Lena looked up at the burning ceiling. "Eli, he saved everyone again." Eli nodded slowly, his voice quiet. "No, he's not just saving us. He's waking up." In the distance, the Academy's alarms shifted tone, from warning to countdown. The Zareth were preparing their final strike. Rex turned toward the sound, eyes glowing brighter than ever. The protector of humanity had fully awakened. The sky above the Academy burned red. Through the shattered dome, streaks of plasma fire fell like meteors, shaking the ground with each impact. The once quiet halls were nothing but twisted metal and drifting smoke now. But beneath the chaos, one thing still moved with purpose: a boy, a girl, and a creature that refused to die. Eli stood near a collapsed support beam, catching his breath. His uniform was torn, his hands shaking, but his eyes stayed fixed on the flickering hologram map projected from his wrist. "They're surrounding us," he said. "Every exit's blocked." Lena looked up at the sky through the cracked dome. "Then we don't run," she said quietly. "We fight." Rex growled beside them, low and steady. The honey badger's fur glowed faintly under the emergency lights, nanotech armor pulsing with gold veins. Each breath sounded like a furnace. Every muscle was coiled, waiting for the next wave. The Academy's AI crackled to life in the broken intercom. "Warning! Orbital bombardment imminent. Structural integrity at 5%. Eli glanced at Rex. "If they destroy the Academy, everyone still inside dies." Lena's voice trembled. "There are survivors in the lower dorms. We can't let the Zareth finish this." Eli nodded. "Then we make our stand here. If the defense grid still works, we can channel power from the core to the surface turrets." He began typing into his wrist console. Sparks leapt from broken wires. "We can't activate it remotely," he muttered. "Someone has to be in the reactor room." Rex turned his head toward the lower levels. It was as if he understood. Eli sighed. "Yeah, I know what you're thinking. But we're not leaving you alone down there." A deep rumble echoed through the floor. Footsteps, heavy and synchronized. Dozens of Zareth troopers moved closer, their glowing visors cutting through the smoke. Lena grabbed her plasma pistol, though her hands shook. "They're coming." Eli took position behind a fallen console. "Then let's give them a reason to regret it." The first blast tore through the wall. Blue plasma fire lit the chamber. The Zareth stormed in, shouting commands in their guttural language. Eli fired first, hitting the lead trooper square in the chest. Rex charged next, his roar echoing through the hall like thunder. He hit the enemy line with unstoppable force. Aliens flew through the air as his claws ripped through armor. Plasma bolts scorched the walls but couldn't slow him down. The more they shot, the faster he moved, the glow of his nanotech flaring brighter. Lena ducked behind cover, reloading. He's not even bleeding anymore," she whispered in awe. Eli kept firing, jaw clenched. "He doesn't have time to bleed." When the last of the soldiers fell, the smoke cleared just enough for Eli to see the path down to the reactor core, long, narrow, and half collapsed. Flames flickered along the edges. He looked at Rex. "That's the way." The honey badger grunted softly, as if answering, and began moving. The floor trembled again, not from footsteps this time, but from the heavens above. The AI's voice returned, broken but clear. "Orbital bombardment in T-minus 6 minutes." They ran. The stairwell to the reactor was cracked and tilted, forcing them to crawl at times. The air grew hotter, the lights dimmer. They passed rooms filled with broken glass, classrooms reduced to ash, and the remains of drones still sparking. At the bottom of the stairwell, they found the reactor chamber. It was massive, filled with swirling energy and surrounded by defense conduits that pulsed like veins. Eli hurried to the console. "If I can reroute power from the emergency core, I can activate the turret network and the shields." Lena kept watch near the entrance. "How long will it take?" 2 minutes. If nothing goes wrong. Something did go wrong. The door behind them exploded inward. A new figure stepped through, the alien commander, or what was left of him. His golden armor was cracked, his face burned, and his eyes glowed with fury. The plasma blade he carried hummed with unstable energy. "You," he hissed. "The beast, the child, the mistake of your kind." Eli aimed his rifle, but the commander raised his hand. A surge of plasma energy blasted through the console, throwing Eli back. Sparks rained across the chamber. The commander advanced slowly. "You think your little monster can save you? It's not even alive. It's a weapon, and every weapon breaks." Rex stepped between the alien and the children, shoulders squared, teeth bared. His eyes glowed brighter than before, burning gold against the blue light of the reactor. The commander laughed, low and cruel. "Then come, beast. Let's see which one of us was built to survive." He lunged, blade swinging. Rex dodged, the blade slicing sparks off the floor. They circled each other, one a soldier of war, the other a creature born from it. The fight was brutal. Every strike echoed like thunder, every movement a blur. Rex slashed across the commander's chest, tearing armor open, but the alien countered with a backhand strike that sent Rex sliding across the floor. Eli crawled toward the console again. "Come on, just a little more!" Lena grabbed his arm. "He's not going to stop!" Rex roared and lunged again. The commander struck with his blade, but Rex caught it in his jaws, molten metal dripping from his teeth. He slammed into the alien, driving him back toward the reactor edge. The floor cracked beneath their feet. The commander swung again, slicing across Rex's flank. The honey badger staggered but didn't fall. His eyes met Eli's for a heartbeat, calm, steady, determined. Eli understood. "No," he whispered. "Don't—" Rex charged one final time. He grabbed the commander and drove him into the reactor pit. Light engulfed the chamber, a blinding flash, a roar that shook the walls. Then silence. When Eli opened his eyes, the console was alive again. The defense turrets were online. The energy. Shields surged up through the Academy's surface, glowing like a dome of blue fire. The orbital bombardment struck, but bounced off harmlessly. The Zareth fleet began to fall back, retreating through the clouds. Eli stood slowly, staring into the reactor glow. Rex? But there was no answer. Only the faint hum of energy and drifting sparks. Lena wrapped her arms around him, tears streaking her face. He saved everyone. Eli nodded, voice breaking. He always did. Above them, the storm cleared. The academy, scarred but still standing, glowed beneath the fading fires. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. The child had cried once. The honey badger had roared back, and the galaxy would never forget it. The fires had died days ago, leaving the academy in silence. The sky over Varan 9 was gray now, heavy with smoke and drifting ash. The once bright towers of learning stood cracked and scorched, but somehow, impossibly, still upright. The humans had survived. Eli sat alone on the remains of a collapsed stairway, staring at the distant reactor dome. The shield above the academy still shimmered faintly, powered by what was left of the core. The battle was over, but the cost felt endless. Lena approached quietly, holding 2 ration packs. She looked older somehow, her eyes tired but steady. She handed one to Eli and sat beside him. "The recovery teams from the outer colonies will arrive soon," she said softly. "They'll take us home." Eli didn't look at her. His gaze stayed fixed on the reactor dome. "Home?" he whispered. He was home. Lena followed his eyes. The place where Rex had fallen still glowed faintly beneath the cracked glass, a silent reminder of what had happened. No one had found a body. Just scorched metal, melted armor, and claw marks burned into the steel. "They say he died, stopping the reactor from overloading," Lena murmured. Eli shook his head slowly. "No, Rex doesn't die like that." For a long moment they sat without speaking. Wind moved through the ruins, carrying the faint smell of ozone and dust. Then the sky broke with light. A fleet descended from orbit. Human ships, sleek and silver, marked with the insignia of the Terran Defense Command. Dropships landed among the ruins. Soldiers and medics poured out, scanning survivors, tending to the wounded. A tall officer stepped toward Eli and Lena. His armor was clean, untouched by battle. "Cadet Harrow?" he asked. Eli stood. "Yes, sir." "I'm Commander Rane. We received your distress signal." His gaze moved to the reactor dome. "Is it true? A single defense unit held off the Zareth fleet?" Eli hesitated. "It wasn't a unit, sir. It was my friend." Rane studied him for a moment. "The reports mention an unauthorized bioweapon designated Rex-09. I assumed it was a malfunctioning combat drone." "It wasn't," Eli said quietly. "He wasn't a weapon. He chose to fight." The commander said nothing for a while. Then he placed a gloved hand on Eli's shoulder. "Whatever he was, he saved every soul in this academy. That kind of loyalty is rare, human or not." Lena smiled faintly, tears glinting in her eyes. "He wasn't just loyal. He was family." As they spoke, engineers began restoring the main data core. The AI flickered back to life, voice weaker but still present. "Welcome back, Commander. Report, enemy forces retreated. Defensive integrity restored. Casualty rate, 72%. Rane exhaled. 72. And still the Academy stands. The AI's tone shifted, almost soft. Primary defense subject Rex-09. Status unknown. Energy readings detected in lower levels. Continuing analysis, Eli looked up sharply. "What did you say?" "Residual bioenergy patterns detected near reactor core. Unstable but active." Lena's hand found Eli's. "He's alive!" Without another word, Eli ran. Through cracked corridors, past the burned classrooms, down to the reactor dome. The security team tried to stop him, but Rane raised a hand. "Let him go!" Eli reached the reactor platform, breathless. The light from the core shimmered softly, painting everything gold. For a moment there was nothing, only the hum of energy. Then from the shadows came a low growl. Rex stepped forward. His armor was scorched and blackened, parts of it fused with the nanotech now glowing faintly beneath his skin. One eye flickered between gold and blue. He limped slightly, but his gaze was sharp, alive. Eli's voice broke. "You came back?" The honey badger tilted his head, and for the first time since the battle, Eli smiled. He dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around Rex's neck. The creature rumbled softly, a sound halfway between a growl and a purr. Lena arrived moments later, tears streaming down her face. "I knew it," she whispered. "I knew he wouldn't leave us." From the upper walkway, Commander Rane watched in silence. Then he turned to the AI console. "Record everything," he said. "The galaxy needs to see this." The next weeks passed in a blur. The Terran fleet stabilized the Academy, evacuated the wounded, and sent news of the event across human space. Within days, every channel, every colony, and every world was talking about the same thing: the human child who called out for help, and the creature that answered with fire and fury. They called it the Battle of Varan 9. They called him the Defender of the Academy. But across the alien networks in whispered fear, he was called something else: the Roar that never died. Even the Zareth Council, once so proud and ruthless, refused to approach human territory again. They sealed their borders and issued one warning to their warriors: if you hear the roar of the Earth Beast, retreat. Years later, the Academy was rebuilt, standing taller than before. A statue stood at its heart, of a small human boy and the honey badger at his side. Beneath it, words carved into stone read, "He was not built. He was not trained. He chose." Eli often returned to that place, older now, but still carrying the same look in his eyes, the mix of sadness and pride. Rex stayed with him always, guarding, watching, silent except for the occasional deep rumble that made even visiting diplomats step back in awe. One night, as the stars shimmered above the Academy dome, Lena looked over at Eli and smiled. "You think the galaxy's still afraid of him?" Eli laughed softly. "They should be." Rex lifted his head then, eyes glowing faintly in the starlight, and let out a quiet, low growl that rolled through the night like distant thunder. The Academy was silent no more. It had a guardian, a legend, a roar that would echo across time forever.